Did you know that James Cameron only received $1 for his first Terminator script? And that Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't the first choice to play the killing machine? And that there's a connection between Apple Inc. and Terminator POV, John Connor, and Jesus Christ? Hi, I'm Tim. You're watching OSSA, and it's time to take a closer look at the Terminator movies. So, let's start with where it all began. The creation of the franchise. The idea for the very first Terminator movie actually came to James Cameron through a dream, and to be more specific, a nightmare. Cameron revealed in an interview on the Terminator Blu-ray that he was in Rome working on his first movie when he got a high fever and started to get a specific vision for another film. A creepy metal death figure was coming out of a fire. Cameron thinks that being in a foreign country all by himself made him feel very dissociated from humanity, and that it was easy to project himself into two characters from the future who were out of time and out of place, just like he was. It was one of those stories where a brilliant idea is born from a sick mind. And it may sound almost unbelievable, but James Cameron sold this idea for $1. Any thoughts on how that could have happened? Okay, so here's the deal. James Cameron was really breaking bad in those days. He made his very first movie called Piranha 2: The Spawning under big pressure from the studio. The movie was a disaster, and Cameron has had trust issues ever since. So he wrote a script. It was called The Terminator. His agent hated it, but there were studios who were ready to buy it. But it still was almost impossible to find a studio that would allow him to direct it by himself. So Cameron made a deal with producer Gale Ann Hurd. He would direct The Terminator, but he would only get $1 for the script. And that's what happened. But hey, don't feel sorry for James Cameron, because this was probably the best deal in his life. And sometime later, the studio allowed him to spend $150,000 just for the trailer for Terminator 2: Judgment Day, which normally does not happen. Normally, filmmakers use movie materials to create their teasers and trailers, but James Cameron was never a normal filmmaker. He was an outstanding one, and still is. The reason why Cameron spent so much money on the trailer was the fear that audiences wouldn't understand how T-800 would be back in the second movie, when it was destroyed in the first one.
Stay here. I'll be back.
That's why in the trailer, Cameron created a futuristic line of Terminator T-800 copies, which explained how Schwarzenegger could possibly be back in Judgment Day. Pretty clever, isn't it? Filming process details. Now, it's almost impossible to imagine Schwarzenegger not playing the Terminator.
Hasta la vista, baby.
However, that's what almost happened. From the very beginning, O J Simpson was meant to take the role, and according to Arnold, the studio was afraid that OJ didn't look much like a killing machine. Yep, but no one can say the same about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Come with me if you want to live.
The interesting thing here is that Schwarzenegger didn't want to take the part, because there were only 58 spoken words for his character in the script.
I'll be back.
It's almost unbelievable how a stubborn man like Arnold could accept that and agree to play the part of the robot. But don't feel sorry for Schwarzenegger, because it was all fixed in Terminator 6: Dark Fate, where T-800 talks so much that Sarah Connor even asks him to shut up.
Metal motherfucker.
And what about the other famous machine from the franchise? Did you know that Robert Patrick wasn't the first choice to play T-1000?
It was like, who the hell is that guy? And they bought it, and the T-1000 is way more famous than I have ever become.
Famous musician Billy Idol was supposed to be the liquid metal Terminator, but he was injured while driving a motorcycle, and that's how the studio chose another actor. By the way, that motorcycle accident was the reason why Billy Idol used crutches in Oliver Stone's movie The Doors. Another interesting detail about making the first two Terminator movies is the despotic way James Cameron worked with his actors. No improvisation is Cameron's on-set motto. Arnold Schwarzenegger said in his interview to Margaret Gardner that sometimes he as an actor would improvise on set. But in James Cameron movies, nobody does. The director just doesn't leave much space for his actors. I don't make any changes to your acting, so you don't make any changes to my script, demands Mr. Cameron, which is a true thing. Except for the part where he says, I don't make any changes to your acting, because Cameron does a hell of a lot of those. It was extremely crucial for him as a director to follow exactly everything he wrote in his script. Like, for example, did you notice the detail from the first movie, where Sarah Connor is at the police station, and the cop tells her that she is safe in there, because there are 30 policemen to protect her?
You'll be perfectly safe. They got 30 cops in this building.
Maybe you did notice that, but I know for sure that you didn't count how many cops were killed on screen while Terminator was attacking the station. Yep, there were exactly 30 cops, which is a pretty cool detail, admit it.
So it's a state of mind, is really the point. Once you
once you commit yourself to do it.
If you think of James Cameron as a man who always stands up for his ideas, then I must tell you that sometimes he loses too. Example, in the very first movie, Terminator was supposed to eat food in order to keep his human flesh alive. More than that, scenes where T-800 ate snacks were even filmed, but the test audience reacted really badly to that idea, and Cameron decided to delete this scene from the movie. So the only related thing that was left in the movie was the scene in the third movie, where Terminator takes snacks from a store with his classic line, "Talk to the hand." Let's end this part with a story where both Cameron and Schwarzenegger didn't allow the studio to delete a scene. The thing was that the budget of Judgment Day was constantly expanding during the pre-production process, and no studio likes that. So, when the budget inflated from $75 million to $88 million, the producers said, "Mr. Cameron, we need to cut some scenes from the script." They proposed to delete the one where T-800 enters the bar to get himself clothes at the beginning of the movie. Can you imagine Terminator 2 without that scene? Well, I can't. Same with Cameron and Schwarzenegger, who turned the producers down, saying only studio guys would cut a scene out like that. Well said. Twins on set and unexpected cameos. Did you know that there were two identical twin pairs in the Terminator 2 Judgment Day? You must remember how T-1000, played by Robert Patrick, changed his appearance to trick his victims. Creepy as hell. Like at the end of the film, he took the form of Sarah Connor to attract her son John. But then there were two Sarah Connors in one frame, and if you thought it was all CGI, then I'm here to tell you, it was Linda Hamilton's identical twin sister Leslie. Want to try guessing which Hamilton is which in this scene? That's right, Linda is the real Sarah Connor, and Leslie plays T-1000. Talk about an unexpected but cool cameo. Her twin sister also appeared in another scene, and trust me, you would have never spotted her if you didn't know that she was there. Remember the scene where Sarah Connor replaces the chip in a T-800 head? There is a mirror in front of her, but surprisingly enough, that was no mirror on set. It was Leslie who played the reflection. You may ask now, why the hell would they use her twin instead of using a simple mirror? The answer is crazy. James Cameron wanted to create a long shot where we can see both T-800 giving commands in front of a mirror and Sarah Connor drilling his head at the same time. That's why they asked Leslie Hamilton to help. And it wasn't only Linda's twin that was on set. Remember the security guard in the mental hospital that was killed by T-1000? Yep, they were played by identical twins Don and Dan Stanton. God, I love that scene. Talking about cameos, James Cameron also appeared in the Terminator franchise, or better to say, his voice did, and his dog Wolfie. In the first Terminator movie, Sarah Connor was planning to go on a date. We know that because her phone rings, and a male voice leaves a message canceling their date.
Hi, Sarah. Dan Morsky. Something's come up and it looks like I won't be able to make it tonight. Just can't get out of it. Look, I'm really sorry. I'll make it up to you.
Yep, that was Cameron's voice. And the funny thing here is that James Cameron actually married Linda Hamilton in 1997. We can also hear the director's voice in the same movie, when the Terminator calls Sarah on her home phone, and a male voice answers. Again, it was Cameron. Talking about Cameron's dog, it has appeared in many of the movies. However, the most memorable mention of his German Shepherd can be found in the scene where John Connor calls his foster parents, and hears his dog Max barking. T-800 takes the phone from John and imitates his voice, asking what is wrong with Wolfie, intentionally mistaking the dog's name. So, when he receives an answer that Wolfie is okay, he knows for sure that John's parents have been murdered. And yes, Wolfie is actually James Cameron's German Shepherd's name. Before we get to one of my favorite facts from the Terminator franchise, let's mention an Easter egg that is really hard to notice, especially for millennials. Apple Easter egg. I want to tell you about Terminator POV shots with all those weird numbers and truly retro-looking design. Any ideas how that was inspired? This may surprise many of you, but that's literally the ROM code for the Apple II computer. Yep, it's as simple as that. Just in case you somehow have this retro computer at home, you can check it out by entering the right command prompt. Which is really cool, because James Cameron hid Easter eggs way before it became the popular thing to do in movies. And finally, let's talk about the hidden meaning in the Terminator movies. This might take you by surprise, but it's Christian symbolism. Have you ever caught yourself thinking that the Terminator's background story is kind of familiar? No? Okay, then what if I told you a story about a horrible day? Let's call it Judgment Day, when almost all the human beings will be destroyed. Oh, if only there was a savior with the initials JC. You might first think of Jesus Christ in the Bible, but it's possible that it could be John Connor in the Terminator. And also, these two JC characters were born to women who became pregnant under mysterious circumstances. And do you remember the storyline from Terminator 2, where John Connor teaches T-800 to be good and to not harm people?
Gotta promise me you're not gonna kill anyone, right?
Right.
Swear?
What?
Just put up your hand and say, I swear I won't kill anyone.
Just like Jesus Christ did? That couldn't be a coincidence. And it also reminds me of Neo's path from The Matrix. However, that is a whole other story, one which we might cover in our future videos. Did you guys know any of these? Or have you maybe spotted some other details and Easter eggs in the Terminator franchise? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to our channel, and as always, stay awesome!